let's see. We were gonna, yeah, I had a bunch of stuff about the Dolphins.
By the way, the Dolphins did not lose this week
They didn't play this week
because they had a bye week.
Saying that they didn't win this week because they couldn't play because they've won 5 in a row. So they'll have to try to win next week.
That's right.
No, but I had sort of an extremely cynical plan for how they can be not really a Super Bowl contender, but a good team for several years that should be contending to get into the playoffs every year. And if things break right one year, maybe they could win a playoff game or two and, make it to the AFC Championship. If you catch lightning in a bottle one year, just things go your way, kind of like the Titans did, a couple of years ago when they got all the way to the AFC Championship game.
Right.
So let's see. So if you actually look at it, people have been, obviously critical of Tua, the quarterback for the Dolphins.
Especially us.
Huh?
Especially us.
Especially us, yeah.
We count.
Saying that he's not an elite quarterback and, a lot of different things. We still don't think he's an elite quarterback, but we think based on last year and then especially this year, you can win games with him. There's kind of a certain formula for it. And people are like, yeah, but if you can't win the Super Bowl with him, what's the point? Well, most teams are in that scenario. Most teams do not have elite quarterbacks. Again, elite is an exclusionary word. There's only a few, It's like in the NFL. There's a few really good teams, a few really bad teams, and everyone else is sort of,
right. And just to interrupt you there, it's not that obviously he's not an elite quarterback. Our question is he ever going to be?
Oh well, yeah. I would probably say no. But if you wanted to say the jury is still out, I would say okay, that's fair. Because he's only played 17 games.
Right. And by that rationale, I mean, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow aren't elite quarterbacks either. We just think they probably will be.
We think that they have the potential to be. Yeah, that's more the point. You're right. I don't necessarily think that Tua has the potential to do that. But Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, it looks like they do. So let's see here. So yeah, so I guess the whole point is that most teams are kind of in that situation, like the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, the Vikings with Kirk Cousins,
49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Maybe say the Browns with Baker Mayfield, because it's kind of who else did you mention?
I said 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo.
49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. There's probably a bunch of other teams where it's like, yeah, I mean, like you look at the Broncos, they're a quarterback away, really. They're 7-6. They just won today. They beat Detroit. So, you can, without having a really, really elite quarterback or a Super Bowl winning quarterback or a quarterback who you think has the potential to win the Super Bowl, you can win a lot of games. You can make the playoffs. Kirk Cousins has won a playoff game. Ryan Tannehill has won 2, and he was leading the Chiefs at the halftime of the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. So I guess the point is with the Dolphins, it's like, look, your defense seems to be pretty good. You probably need a couple more playmakers, but if you get your defense a little bit better, you fix the offensive line so it's not atrocious, so you can run the ball a little bit, and then Tua just continues to develop, and you also look at, well, how do you get into the playoffs? How many games do you have to win? Well, I mean, a lot of times if you win 10 games, I know we have one extra game now, but excuse me, if you win 10 games, you probably got a good shot at making the playoffs, right? So then you look at it and you go, well, if your quarterback's not elite, how do you beat really good teams? Well, you usually don't, okay? But if you beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, or most of the teams you're supposed to beat, and then if the rest of your team is pretty good and you can kind of get into some close games, things can happen one way or another. There's a turnover, you get a sack, you get a fumble recovery, you throw a long pass down the field, some guy makes a great catch, something like that happens, you end up winning a couple games. And then you're almost at 10 wins or you're at 10 wins, or you just catch lightning in a bottle one year and you're just really insanely good for some reason. You're just getting turnovers like crazy, or you're running the ball like with the Titans, they had Derrick Henry and they just rode him for 2 years and he took him to the playoffs 2 years in a row. So, things like that can happen. So, yeah, that was kind of my sort of extremely cynical take where it's like, I don't think they'll ever be a Super Bowl contender, but hey, if they could be a good team for several years and make a few playoff appearances, maybe win a playoff game or maybe two, if things go your way, I'd be okay with that. Am I upset that they didn't draft Justin Herbert? Yes, they should have, and they blew it. But this is the situation we're in. So you can get upset about the world the way you wish things were, or you can deal with the way things are. So you can drink the water. So I don't know. What did you? I know we had talked about this earlier in the week, but did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I think you're on the right track. It's great. It's kind of like the Dolphins season has been completely up and down. They started out pretty poorly, even though they were in a bunch of these games that they could have won, and they've managed to get a bunch of wins against some bad teams. So,
and the other thing is that I think it's one of those things where, and I'm hesitating to say this because we've been Dolphins fans for a while, and it's been like we had Chad Henne, and it's like, okay, is he going to get? Do we have to wait a little longer? We had Ryan Tannehill for several years, and it's like we're waiting. It's not really happening. So I get kind of annoyed with that, but at the same time with Tua, I just think it's going to take him longer to develop. And I think they messed up his development in the first year because they designed an offense around Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then for whatever reason they were 4-4. Fitzpatrick was playing well, and they put Tua in there, and it's like this offense isn't designed around him. What the hell are you doing? At least this year they started off with the offense designed around him. They draft Jalen Waddle specifically because he played with him in Alabama, and then also he'll fit in with all the RPO stuff that they're doing. So. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I feel like he needs another year or maybe another 2 years before you can kind of say, this is it. This is what he is, for certain. So,
and just for,
updates.
Yeah, the 49ers beat the Bengals in overtime. They scored a touchdown.
I was rooting for the Bengals in that one.
And they're reviewing whether Leonard Fournette got a first down for Tampa. I think I think it's great the Dolphins have turned it around. They need, but they still have the same issues that they had. The offensive line is still not good, and they have, they have some things to fix. They have made it work with what they've got, but so I think they deserve credit for that. But we're going in. Next season will be the fourth year with this coach and GM.
Right.
So,
and that's a good lead into. I had like a sort of a. I don't know if I actually have 12 steps for the Dolphins, but I have several steps. We'll see if I get to 12 of just sort of this is what you need to do going forward for the next year or two. So I think how did I start this off? I had basically. I'm trying to remember the very first point I was going to make.
Yeah, you wanted to do an intervention on the Dolphins, even though it's a little late.
An intervention. That's the word I was looking for. An intervention with the Dolphins. You might say, well, they've won 5 in a row. Why are you doing an intervention now? Shouldn't you have done it at rock bottom when they lost to the Jaguars? And it's like, I guess you could do that, but at the same time, they've sort of turned things around. So maybe it's a good point to kind of go, hey, stop right here for a second. Let's make sure that we're on the right track and we don't fall back into losing to the Jaguars again, because they're playing the Jets next week, so you don't want to lose to the Jets. The Jets are 3-10; they're terrible. Okay, so I think the first thing was what's the first? What was the first thing? Okay, Deshaun Watson. I understand why you want to trade for Deshaun Watson, and to be honest, I get it. It's fine. But I would just say this: if you're going to trade for Deshaun Watson, okay, don't do it in the middle of next season. Okay, if you're going to do it in the off season. If he's able to resolve his legal issues and you still want to trade for him, go ahead and do it, and then trade Tua, and then design everything around Deshaun Watson so you can start off the year like, boom, this is our guy. This is who we're moving forward with. We've got things set up around him, so now we can try to go win. Don't do like this year. I think it was ridiculous that they're trying to trade for Deshaun Watson in the middle of the year, and it's like Tua's like, well, am I the quarterback or not? And you got all this stuff swirling around. I don't think that's necessarily good for things. So if you're going to trade for Deshaun Watson, get it done in the offseason. Otherwise, move on. Okay. And if you don't trade for Deshaun Watson, like I said, don't do it in the middle of the year. Tua is your quarterback for next year, period. Okay. And you might be like, yeah, but I don't know if he's good enough. Well, let me tell you something. You drafted him. Okay. You could have drafted Justin Herbert, but you didn't. So just stick with Tua. Stick with Tua for next year if you're not going to get Deshaun Watson in the offseason. Let's see. What was the other part? Oh, the other part. Chris Grier. Okay. I understand you made some mistakes in the draft. Okay. You drafted some offensive linemen and they didn't work out. Okay. Just put that aside. Just accept that you made some mistakes and then let's try to move forward and do a good job. Okay. I'm trying to remember who were draft picks. Was Jalen Phillips a draft pick?
Yeah.
By Chris Grier? Okay. He's playing well. Okay. You drafted Jalen Waddle. He's probably going to be touchdown Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Sucks for Buffalo. You had your shot. You should have scored a touchdown there. Okay, so like I was saying, Chris Grier, you made some mistakes. It's okay, it happens. But you have done some things. You have done some things well. So just forget about the mistakes. Let's move forward. Let's have another good draft. Try to address a good draft, and also you've got a bunch of cap space. Fix the offensive line. Okay, you can't win football games if you got a crap offensive line, which you guys have. Okay. What were some of the other? I don't know if you wanted to jump in on anything, go ahead. But I'm trying to remember all the points that I had on this.
Yeah, listen, the Dolphins have been powerless to change the franchise, and their situation is clearly unmanageable. As it is for us as the fans. We've tried to turn our will and our lives over to Chris Grier, but he hasn't had. He's basically had a couple of really good draft picks in 6 years or whatever. So, he did a great job drafting Xavier Howard, but we don't have a whole lot of impact players on the team, especially on defense.
Xavier Howard's really good. They need more. I mean, especially like if you could get a really great running back or, just stuff like that. I mean, like a really because Jalen Waddle's good, but and granted, maybe that's a function of the offensive line why you haven't seen him going down the field a lot. Excuse me. But anyway.
I think it's one of those things. It's frustrating because they should be better than they are, but it's right. also we have to be realistic. Like, this is what the team is. And so we'll see. We're going to go into, I think the coach has basically saved his job with the way that they've played recently.
If they kept losing like that, he was going to get fired. So yeah, basically next year is that's why we're doing an intervention. Next year is the make or break year. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs next year, either Brian Flores and Chris Grier, or at least Brian Flores is probably gone. The GM might be gone as well. We'll see. So let's see, what did it say? Fix the offensive line. I don't know obviously we don't know exactly what's going on in the Dolphins locker room, but we've heard reports that Brian Flores kind of acts like Bill Belichick. And the last time I checked, Brian Flores, is your name Bill Belichick? No, your name is Brian Flores. Okay, you haven't been to the playoffs, much less won a playoff game. Okay, so just kind of back off with being arrogant and whatever else. Just I've heard people say you're even keel. That's good. Okay, fine. Just stick with that. And again, if you don't trade for Deshaun Watson in the offseason, don't do it during the middle of the season because you're not going to have these weird press conferences. You're not going to have to answer questions. You can just go into the season with either Tua's the quarterback or Deshaun Watson's the quarterback. Done. And you might be saying, well, are you really going to, pin your hopes on Tua as your future? It's like, I mean, is there a better option out there? Who are you going to get?
yeah, that's something we've been talking about the whole season. Is people think, oh well, they're just going to move on from him. Well, it's not that easy.
Yeah,
It's not as simple as you can't just find quarterbacks growing on trees. There's not going to be somebody available that's significantly better than him. And maybe Deshaun Watson's legal stuff will get resolved, but it's not likely.
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I think
Well,
we'll see how
the other thing I just remembered this. The other thing I wanted to add about Brian Flores. Okay, when I was talking about going into the season with this guy's your quarterback, there needs to be a lot of clarity. Okay, so don't be firing offensive line coaches a week before the season starts. Okay, and can we continuity is good, but continuity for continuity's sake, may not be the best thing, but just have everything in place so you can just move forward and there's just continuity and there's no questions about this other stuff like, well, who's the offensive coordinator? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? Just, keep the offensive coordinator's actually been doing a pretty good job the last several weeks. So just, hang on to him and get better players on the offensive line, just figure that out. I think the other point I was going to make was, I'm not saying you got to be Super Bowl contenders, but just don't lose to the Jets this year or next year. Just don't lose to them. We've got to be better than the Jets. Okay. I'm not saying you got to, hell, you don't even have to beat the Bills next year. Okay. If you get the Patriots in September, you might be able to beat them. Okay. But just don't lose to the Jets and don't lose to the Jaguars again. Okay. Please. And also go to Stephen Ross and say, can you tell the NFL to stop sending us to London in the middle of the season to play a football game, an American football game, not soccer? Like, come on, guys. Trying to remember if there was anything else. I think that was basically the sort of intervention of keeping you guys on the straight and narrow for this season leading into next year.